Hello and welcome to another episode of Christ in Consoles. I'm Chris.
And I'm Brandon.
And we are here to talk about theology, culture, gaming, things we've been studying, and kind of how it all intersects. We also take questions and comments from our Twitch chat and Discord, link in the description. And we want to thank our Twitch viewers for watching, as well as our viewers on BibleDiscoveryTV.com. Now,
this episode's going to be a little bit different. This episode, well, yeah, it's going to be more of like a gushy episode. We're going to gush about some stuff. But this is actually the last episode of Season 1 of Christ in Consoles. We are going to take a little bit of a break to, refine and to study. And we will be back in October.
Yes, and there are other there's other content being recorded for BibleDiscoveryTV.com. So if our Twitch viewers are interested in that, we have a link on our Twitch page as well in our panels.
Yeah.
So
and it frees us up to do more exciting secret projects we can't talk about.
Yes,
for Bible Discovery TV.
Yes, and yeah, we also need to do some other work around the ministry in terms of all other stuff, taping and
all the other stuff we can't talk about.
Yes.
There's one in particular thing that's coming up that I'm pretty excited about.
Okay, I'm not sure what you're referring to, but
wink.
Okay, yes.
Yep. Okay. So this episode, I wanted to. What are you laughing at me for?
I just stared at the camera for a second.
This episode, we wanted to talk about God's magical world.
The magic.
The magic
exists in God's world.
And how many times do you hear? I was going to say a kid, but like literally, actually anyone.
No, pretty much anyone. If you ask anybody,
be like, I wish I could live in Harry Potter's world. I wish I could live in Middle Earth. I wish I could live
in
Narnia. I wish I could live. Insert sci-fi universe, Star Trek's universe, Star Wars' universe. I was going to say sci-fi universe that isn't like horrible with everyone trying to kill humans.
Right.
But like, how many times I hear that pretty often? How many times
I think if you ask people that, they would intuitively say like, well, what is my favorite fantasy world? Like, what book series do I enjoy the most? And then I pick that one. Do
you want to know what fantasy world my favorite fantasy world is?
What?
This one.
Whoa.
This one.
This one.
This world's freaking nuts.
This world is amazing.
It's really cool.
So here's basically what's happened here. A while ago, this is before we even had like the show.
But yeah, this was probably about a year before Christ in Consoles was a thing.
More. Where I'm not sure who started it.
I think.
Was it me or you?
I think you started the topic. But you were just like, that's amazing. And I went, dude, that's not the only thing that's amazing.
Right,
like, you were like, that's an amazing thing.
We kept going for like
and then
hours.
I was like, yeah, it was really like, my fiance at the time was like, are you done dropping Chris off? And I looked at the time and it was like 2:30 in the morning.
Oh, was that when we were talking in the car?
Yeah, I was supposed to text her and be like, I made it home. And she was worried because it was like 3 hours since we left her house.
Sorry.
Yeah,
sorry,
we just got
sorry,
talking.
Bohemian Fiddle. Yeah. as her Twitch name.
We just we got talking about stuff as we often do, and as my wife now gets annoyed at sometimes. She's like, "Are you coming?" She says it.
Did she say that? Oh.
No, she says it to you.
Does she say it to me?
She says it to you and me. Where she's like, "You think you're gonna be home in like 10? Come home, right?"
I don't think she's ever said that to me.
No, she says it to me when you're in the room.
Is that what she means?
Yeah,
I
she's
know
like,
that.
she's like, don't, just like, shut up and come home.
I'm learning something, TIL. Yeah, okay. Well,
but I do want to say, but this world that we live in every day of our lives, right. Hopefully.
I want to.
Okay, go ahead.
Something.
That's fine. To interrupt me. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to bring up one point before we move on from the, looking at different fantasy worlds, right?
Sure.
That's what we take for granted. We take for granted the world we live in.
Yeah.
And that we have that sort of grass is greener on the other side sort of approach to the world. Go ahead.
Sure. I was just going to say that, our world may seem mundane or boring or simple, but it's just because we become desensitized to this world. We've lived here. I don't even want to do the math. 365 times 24, but that's how long I've lived here.
Sure.
And, I am numb to the fact that my heart keeps beating. I'm numb to the fact that, there's animals that can freaking fly. And, I'm numb to the beetle that can breathe fire. I am numb to this stuff.
Tell me he can't breathe fire, but he can mix chemicals in his body to spray out noxious, not noxious, but corrosive stuff.
Basically fire.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are plenty of animals that do incredible things, right? We look to these magical worlds and we go, man, it'd be so cool to live in that world. It would be amazing to live in there in a magical world like that.
Dude, Harry Potter can fly. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. First of all, I want to make the point that from a sort of a theological perspective, that's how we think about everything. That's how we should think about everything, I think. Is a question for you. Is the grass is always greener? I wish I could live in that fantasy world. Is that a God-honoring thing? Like, it's okay to be like, oh, this is kind of an interesting world, but to say I don't want to live in this world. I don't want to live in this world that God made and decreed that it would be this way. I want to live in a world of my own creation, a fantasy world of my own creation. We live in God's world. This is the world that God made, and the world is as God sovereignly decreed it would be. And so I guess I just want to challenge Christians with the idea that, like, maybe we would do well to be a little more accepting of the way the world is and how God made it, you know? When we say God created the world and nothing is outside of his purview and control, I don't know any Christian who doesn't say that. But, like, do we really believe it? Do we really tangibly apply it to the way we think about the world and about if you want to use the word magical, the amazing nature of the world? And and you're right. We grow calluses. We build calluses, and we build. We grow bored of the things that are all around us, both in our faith and in our world. So, to use biblical examples, like, oh, okay, I've heard the story about, God parting the sea and guiding the Israelites with a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night for 40 years. You've heard that story so many times, and you're like, oh, okay, that's amazing. That's gonna be the catch cry for this episode. It's amazing. Like, what else? Help me think of examples from the Bible.
From the Bible?
Yes. And then we can get into other things.
When a donkey spoke?
Yes. When God suspended the laws of nature to make the sun stand still, and he can do that because he's God.
Anytime Jesus healed anyone?
Jesus healed anyone. When
manna, when the Israelites were fed by food from heaven?
Yes. Heaven?
From heaven?
When Elijah and the poor woman, she had jars full of oil, and they just kept coming. The wicked kept coming until I think the famine passed or something like this.
When Jonah spent a few days, in the belly of a fish,
of some great fish. We don't know what it is, but yeah. So we hear these stories a lot, and we go over time. You go, oh, okay, well, yeah. I mean, sure. I know about that story already.
Yeah,
that happened. That happened in history. Jesus was God, was and is God. And he came to earth, and he died, and he resurrected, and now he's the mediator between us and God the Father. When he raised Lazarus from the dead, it's amazing how
when God created everything.
Yeah, when God created, when God spoke everything into existence, And we're gonna get like make the transition now. When God spoke everything into existence and allows everything to consist. Like let me look at here. Let's see. Yes, verse 17 of Colossians chapter 1, verse 17. And he, God, Jesus, he is before all things, and in him all things hold together or consist, and some translations say. So even the Bible expresses this idea that like your molecules exist and they hold together because God tells them to. Mm-hmm. What? That's amazing. Like, people may ask, where is God? And I would say, well, he's everywhere. But not in the Eastern sense. Not in like God is the rocks and the trees. That's not right. What I mean by that is that eventually, when you break it down, you go smaller and smaller. You can go into your atoms and your protons and neutrons and electrons, and then you go even smaller, and you go into like I think they're called quarks, which are even smaller than that. And beyond that, it gets to be so small we don't know what it is. We don't know what exists beyond that kind of thing. And like at some point, it's just God holding the things together, holding the laws of nature together, the laws of the universe together. And in that sense, there's a natural revelation from God where it's like, this is why God says like only the fool says there is no God, because there's so much evidence to the contrary. So basically, I guess we want to get to the crux of sort of the title of the show is, first of all, let's think about how we view our world. We live in a magical world, and I want to know. I realize that obviously the word magical is a very charged word, like emotionally, and we live in a world full of amazing things that we walk by every day. I'm sure you have examples. I have examples. Here you go, guys. The sun is a ball of fire. It's a gigantic ball of fire that like you could fit. What is it, like 100 Earths or something into the sun?
More than that.
Like the size of the sun. And the sun is a star, right? We call it the sun, but it's a star. So it's funny how our usage of language can change how amazing something can feel, right? So trees, plants, and fruits and vegetables, they grow from starlight. Like they're made because they take in the light of a star and they turn it into energy, you know. You have an example? Give an example.
How many examples can I do? So you got like this little caterpillar guy.
Yes.
And he's going around, and him and his buddy, they're chomping on some leaves, and they both get real fat.
Yes.
The one gets fatter, and he's like, I'm just going to sit still for a bit.
Yes.
And when he sits still in a tree, he turns into soup.
He turns to liquid, yes.
And he's just hanging out as soup for a bit.
Right.
And then as soup decides to completely reform himself, or herself, into a completely new creature with super colorful wings, and then wakes up and goes, oh, it was a good stretch. Time to go to Mexico. Let's go to Mexico.
That's right. No, it's amazing.
It just knows how to get there. Just knows how to get to Mexico.
All right, and then we can, again, using certain terminology, the mundane can somehow the mundane eludes us, or that's right. The fantastic eludes us as the mundane because of the kind of language that we're using, and I'm kind of used to it. But if you put it in certain terms, so like Well, I mean, you both of us have these, and we both wanted to do this example.
Yeah.
So this is my iPod, right? I think you have an iPhone as well, don't you? Yeah,
Yep.
I have an iPod myself. There's a lens in here that, I mean, it's basically a crystal. I mean, it's a lens that projects images, light and color, out into space, which hits my eye, which the rods and cones in my eye, which many times can be more fine-tuned than some cameras. I don't know what the levels are of the complexity. They go into my eye, and my eye translates them into my brain. My brain sees the colors and shapes from the light that's bouncing off of the lens in this device. Translates the light and colors and light into
a meme,
a cat video.
Yep.
Into a concept that I can understand, and then the concept goes into my soul, like who I really am, and to understand and to react to it, and into the seat of the emotions and the will of a human being. That's amazing.
And then you can send You're
watching us right now in the future. We're not actually there with you right now. We've just time traveled in your viewing this.
You can send that cat video to someone through space, and then their pocket crystal gets it. And you want to know what that whole picture, that whole thing looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just
there you go.
I think so. That's kind of what this episode's about. It's about recapturing the wonder of God's magic world. Like, so we said.
Well, how about this? Hold on. One more example. We refine from things from rocks we find in the earth.
Right.
We refine steel.
Yes.
And we make a steel tube.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
With two thinner plates of steel on the sides, right?
Yes.
We then go and we take fuel from deep within the earth. Mm-hmm. We convert that and we put that in the tube. And it's highly combustible.
Yes.
We put that in the tube.
It explodes.
And then we put all of us in the tube. Mm-hmm. And then we go, okay, everyone put this piece of fabric around your waist because we're now going to light this sucker.
Right.
And then we start exploding.
Get on board.
We start exploding all the fuel.
Yes.
And we propel ourselves forward, and then we turn the two steel plates, and then we trick air into lifting us up, and we fly over oceans.
Yeah.
That's called a plane.
And then we kind of like go around and we're like, the airplane is late, or like, the airport's so crowded, or whatever. And we lose that part of us that's like, wow, this is so cool. Like, what we're doing is awesome, you know? I'm sure people felt that way when we landed on the moon, right? Mm-hmm. And I wonder if people still have that awe if we landed on the moon again. If we
it's like, yeah, we already did it.
Yeah, so like,
well, we don't think about that right now. There's a space station right now with people on it, living in space right now. It's like, yeah, okay.
I can access. This is a not even plugged in. It's a mobile device. I can look at it, and I can go anywhere in the world and look at a location anywhere in the world. So okay, so let's put it this way. Talking about like, oh, I wish I could live in this fantasy world. It's so magical. There are magic spells in like things like D&D that lets you do what we can do. like it's like. The spell of scrying lets you see a location in your mind, and you can like get a feel for what it's like.
You basically
can
just
do that
stream that
with your
location.
phone.
You can take this piece of glass in your pocket
man.
and look at it and go, I am hungry. I shall now summon a personalized meal from a man or a woman they will then bring it to me, so I don't even have to leave the comfort of my own home. That also has space that has information all throughout it. My house is smart. My house is communicating with my TV, which is communicating with a satellite, which is then communicating me with someone across the earth who's telling me information that I would have never known if I was was in the past 30 years.
Like, the amount of information I've been able to acquire in my short life from using the magic of technology would have staggered the shoulders, the giants of whom we're standing on their shoulders.
I can sit.
They would spend their whole lives learning something
I can
that
sit
we can
on
learn
the
now.
floor and take a piece of plastic that I don't even know. Now that we're talking about this, I don't even know what plastic is. I was thinking about this the other day. What is plastic?
I have no idea.
I have no idea what plastic is.
I've never looked into it.
But plastic is this magic substance that we just don't carry. Plastic.
I'm sure some of you guys know what it is made of.
Obviously.
But
I could Google it and know what it is. I could just go on the
I
world's information.
I don't know.
It's
what
in my
it is.
pocket. I can just do that. But plastic is this magical thing that just like everywhere is plastic, and it's awful for you, but it doesn't even matter. Like no one cares. Everyone's just like, yeah, plastic.
Right.
I can hold a piece of plastic that has different pieces of plastic that has little pieces of metal on top of little piece of plastic.
Yes.
I can hold it like this, and I can push a piece of plastic in, and on my TV, which is then projecting these new images to me so fast that they look like they're moving, but it's just still images very quickly. I can then control the image to do what I want, and that's called a video game.
Nice. I actually hadn't thought of that. Yep. And then this thing can actually project into your eyes, into your brain, into your soul so much that you actually emote based upon it. So we take the things of God, the things that God made, and we use them. So like if you want, again, talking about terminology and kind of making it more magical. So like it's like people who like metallurgists and blacksmiths, right, or what have you. You could call them alchemists, and somehow it's more magical, right? But that's what they do. They take material and matter from of God's world, and they create different stuff with it, right? Now, of course, here's the beauty of it. Like, humans didn't make any of it. Humans shape it, and they mix them together to make different stuff. But like, it's God's stuff. Like, it's God's material. So whether we're talking about like the natural world and the way the nature works with the caterpillar example, or there's so many more, or technological examples of us being like, yes, we actually do magic with our technology. We do things that are so amazing that, you know, characters from those fictional worlds would be like, man, that'd be cool to be able to do that. You know, in some of those worlds, right? Only some people are mages, right? Only some people can cast spells. Some people are just like, I don't have an aptitude for it. We can all do it. Everyone in this world can do it.
In Dungeons and Dragons, you have to be a cleric or a paladin to produce food or water.
Right.
I can produce food and water in less than half an hour.
And then
for as many people as I want, for digital paper that I do this. This is what digital I do. I order it, and they hold out a piece of plastic, and I take my pocket crystal and I go, and I have now just transferred digital money.
Right. I've just transferred digital, what's considered currency.
Ones and zeros.
Just not, they're not real, but they're there you go. Okay, food. Like, food has come. Like, and
it's not like it's bad food. Like in D&D, when you produce food and water, it's
just the bare minimum.
It's bare minimum, and it doesn't taste anything good. Have you ever ordered a bad pizza? It barely happens. It does happen, though. Barely.
Even the worst pizza.
Even the worst pizza is pretty good.
Is edible, you know, like, anyway. So the point here is like,
pizza is amazing.
So now pizza is amazing. We're taking we can look at it in terms of culinary things as well.
Sure.
We can look at people taking ingredients like that God made, using the starlight from the sun to grow ingredients. The the pepperoni you eat, that's cow, right? Is it pepperoni cow?
It's a whole bunch of different meats, I think.
But so,
Dude, no. You don't even have to go with meat. You can go to be like, dude, I hate tomatoes.
yes,
But you put those bad boys in the sun for long enough, they become
Yes.
sun-dried. I love those. Things that I
you're
hate.
telling me
Things
that
I hate.
as a
you
tomato
can,
gains more starlight energy,
yes.
that
It increases its deliciousness.
it becomes more delicious to you. Interesting. So we're talking about natural examples or technological examples. God, I mean, we don't create anything at the end of the day. God gives us materials and then gives us the know-how to know and to think and to reason out how to combine things to use them for our good. And this is why it's possible to say in Scripture, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it to the glory of God. You can do it in a way that's like, this is something that I'm making to show appreciation to God. Like this is His creation that I'm harnessing, you know, this magic world that we live in. And then the last point I want to make is, interestingly, even in terms of how we take care of ourselves and medicine and surgery, all surgeons can do is violence. You know, all they can do is cut you up and, you know, take something out of you.
Take the thing that's hurting you
out, or to give you medicine, or in the case of medicine, to give you medicine and be like, here, take these. And they didn't heal you. They surgeons and doctors have no ability to heal you. All they can do is in case of surgery, cut something out of you. In case of medicine, to be like, here's the things that God made that we kind of put together as our alchemists back in the alchemist lab did. Here's some things we put together. Take these that God made, and take them, and hopefully God will heal you. When someone does surgery and then they sew you back up and then they just go, okay, now you just have to heal. Inadvertently, what someone is saying is, okay, now we just have to wait for God to allow you to heal. Like, oh, it's like amazing how like this is how God is in all and through all, and how you know, there was 1 Corinthians 1:17 talks about that, right? We all consist because God's word decrees it so. So there's so much wonder in the world to think about, and maybe it could be a fun exercise for you guys. Just like sit back for a second and just examine the world around you.
It's very fun. It's fun to do that.
And think about the things you take for granted. We take our world for granted because we live in it every day. And I wonder, you know, if we could like sit back and like watch fantasy characters that we love to watch so much.
Hand Frodo an iPhone.
Right. Hand Frodo. Yeah, exactly. Hand Gandalf our technology, right? And what was it? Frodo needed birds. Or no, Gandalf needed birds to get around. We can just call an Uber. Mm-hmm. we can just call it a taxi.
Different transportation whenever I want from wherever I want.
Right. So technology and nature both are good examples of this wonder and this amazement. So look around in your world and I understand that God made this world, everything that happens, even the healing that you experience and from doctors, the technology you use, the nature you see around you, it all is like it's all God using it to consist. And it's a magical world that if you went to the characters in these fantasy worlds and you were like, and you just watch their every day, I'm sure they would just be like, yeah, it's in their world.
Yeah.
Because it's mundane to them. But I think it's an astute person to be like, wow, we really do live in a world full of wonder. And so that's what we want to leave you with, that sense, with a sense of wonder about God's world. And don't take it for granted that we live in a world that is governed by a truly all-powerful, sovereign God who's got everything all figured out and allows everything to be. As you breathe in oxygen, as your body desires oxygen involuntarily, as your heart continues to beat from the moment that your heart is formed in the womb, and I think it's like 6 weeks, or by week 6, your heart beats, and you don't have to tell it to beat. It's God telling your heart to beat, and that's amazing. So, all right, guys. We'll leave you with that. Please, if you want to check us out on Twitch, in the description there's a link to it.
And until the next Christ and Consoles episode, you have enough time to watch the rest of the videos.
Rest of our stuff, other content on Bible Discovery TV.
So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you in October. Check out our other videos and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter and friend us on Facebook. Feel free to check Chris and I out over on twitch.tv/ZarOcto and make sure to leave a like. See you guys next week.